Hey everybody, this is PJ Riley from Competition Archery Media out here at the Elite Pro-Am in Cullman, Alabama. We're out here where we just finished on the A range with the Open Pro and Women's Pro. Of course, we're here with our pro Dan McCarthy. And Dan, besides the heat and humidity, what kind of unique challenges does this forest present? Mike likes to call it the Black Forest.
Yeah, it's dark. I mean, it's dark in here when the cloud came over earlier today, and it was starting to thunder a little bit. You could hear it off in the distance, but I remember it last year, it got really dark in here too. I would say overall lighting though wasn't terrible. We've shot in worse conditions. I would say probably the toughest thing today is just the really narrow lanes.
Gotcha. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what we're going to talk about. But we should mention you finished at 16 up, sitting in second place. Got to be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm happy with all of it except for aiding the shortest target out here. So that was I had like one click on my sight, so that would have put me at 20, and I'd probably been a little happier with that. But first day out here, you try to just stay in it, and that's really all you can do.
Gotcha. Well, before we go in there, Dan, so I've been having some trouble with my bubbles. We've talked about that. And so when I went home after the last shoot, I was thinking, hey, I wasn't paying attention to my bubble. When I went out and shot, I discovered I couldn't actually see my bubble. And that was an issue. So I had a two-step sunshade on the front, which was covering half my bubble. So I took that off.
Two-step, just so people know, there's scopes out there where the front of them have multiple rings. So depending on how bright it is, as your peep appears to be smaller in really bright sunlight, you can use the inner step to center up with.
Correct.
Okay.
And I discovered my pin, when the post sits in the middle, when the bubble got to the middle, it would disappear because my pin was right behind it. So with this Shrewd Optum scope, I was able to take my pin and just kick it off to the side. So now there's nothing behind my bubble. And for me, I discovered now I can see my bubble. So
good.
I'm hoping that works out today.
Honestly, it's tough to see your bubble a lot of times just inside of that focal point. I mean, when you're staring through your lens, and you're really, looking down at range, and then you're using your pin to cover up what you're looking at. Most people don't stare at the tip of their pin, because then you can't focus on, you can't see what's downrange isn't that clear. And so when you do that, when you're looking past your pin, a lot of times your bubble just will be blurry, will be tough to see. So it's really important to draw back, level your bow, get the bubble and everything in the center as you're anchoring, and then once you transition off of looking at your bubble and you look down range, you're probably not going to see your bubble again. You're actually going to have to refocus your eyes in order to see it. So, anything you can do to kind of have your subconscious see it a little bit better, I think is a good thing.
I think my subconscious can see it. I don't know. But we got a unique shot here with some of the things you were talking about with the narrow lanes. Let's go check it out.
Okay.
All right, Dan, so the reason I like this one, this was before you even mentioned the narrow lanes. I came out here and thought, man, you can't even see the butt, and if you're standing on the stake, you can't see the head. Medium deer, down there, just got to shoot through the tunnel. I mean, me being the novice, that messes with my depth perception, but what's
messed with mine. I mean, I looked at this target and I thought I had to lead it, so I never got to listen to an arrow or anything, and I just looked down there and and I don't put a lot of weight in that just because I don't practice that stuff, but sometimes you'll hear something, and I just looked at it and thought, man, I think,
don't tell me,
this should be a pretty good number, and then I thought, I don't know, maybe he kind of looks a little smaller, maybe I should add one or something, and I broke a good shot on it, and I hit high. I mean, I hit top of the 10. It was. So this one was the furthest away from. I mean, this was by far the farthest I hit away from the 12 all day. Was
really?
This target, yeah.
Is it?
This was the only one I either wasn't really close to 12ing or just off of the 12.
So what is it about this that we have to account for?
I needed to set my sight for about 2.5 less than what I shot it for, maybe 3. That's what I wasn't accounting for.
Is it the trees in the way, or is it that you can't see the whole
I think
deer?
it's a mixture of just the set. You know, sometimes just certain sets fool you. Like, I mean, you put this target in a different lane and maybe I smoke it.
Right.
I just, it just, like I said, when I looked at it for some reason, and maybe it's because I couldn't see the whole target, I couldn't see something that my mind would have keyed a little better off of to give me a better idea of depth. But I mean, you gotta, this lane, these guys will see this, but this lane is so narrow that you just couldn't really get a good depth. I mean, it's almost like standing in a hallway, you know, a really narrow hallway, and just looking down a tube and trying to decide, you know, how far is the end of the tube.
Right,
I mean, that's kind of what this is. So when I run into targets like that, you know, sometimes you hit them, sometimes you don't, but generally I'm erring to 10. Like, I was looking at this target going, I doubt I have a great number, and it's not worth shooting an 8 on, so this number will probably shoot me a 10, but I still thought that it would have a chance at a 12.
Yeah.
It just really fooled me. I mean, as far as, like, it was closer than what I thought.
Did you call upper on this one?
No, I didn't.
You did not? Okay.
Should have.
Because I know your shot
wouldn't have
was
looked
high.
as bad.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, all right, I'm going to see what number I come up with, and hey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I would say, you know, some of the other things I think are influential in this is depending on when you shoot these targets matter too. Because I shot this, this was my last 5, and I had been leading on the board for a long time. And so I'm not saying like go into a protective mode, but you kind of do, to where it's like, okay, the worst I can finish at this point, I should be in it for tomorrow. So you just don't want to give points back. And so I know, like, when I was up on this target, I'm definitely shooting it for maybe a little bit more than what I see it for, just to protect from shooting an 8 out the bottom.
Right.
But if I'd shot this maybe on target 1, I might have got a little more aggressive on the number too. Might have 8'd it out the bottom. You never know. All right, so what are you thinking? This is a tough target, but it's really important, like on tough lanes, things that look hard, is to not associate like the hardness of being able to judge it with a long number. Because a lot of times your brain, the harder a target looks or the darker it looks, the harder it's going to be to aim. Your brain associates that for some reason with a longer number. And so it's easy to overshoot, you know, really tough lanes and stuff as well, just because of how narrow they are.
All right, I think I have a number.
You gonna tell me, or are you just gonna do it?
I'm just gonna shoot it. I'll tell you afterwards.
Here we go.
I'll tell you afterwards. Man. Second guessing.
It's gotta be more accurate than the first guess.
I just added 3 to my first guess.
You just added 3 yards?
I did.
Don't
look at it. I want to go with live and die on my number.
All right. 3 yards is a go ahead and shoot it, but 3 yards is a lot. For me, I would never do that big of a move.
I think I was off. That's what made me do it. I was like, man, that's farther than I thought it was.
Well,
that's what I think.
Listening to your gut's a good thing. It's just a matter of trying to tell the difference sometimes between your gut and the fear talking. Like what's actual.
The fear is real, I can tell you that.
All right, let's shoot a 10 or a 12. Oh my God! There we go. Look at it, easy
that's 12
peasy.
height, but I'm on the wrong side.
What'd you end up shooting it for?
Holy crap! 43.
So that's a good read. Honestly, I walked up to this target and I looked at it and thought it looks about 4 to me.
44.
I could see it being 5. I think 6, and I thought I'll put 6 kind of at the bottom of the 12. I know it's not any further than 6, and so I'll put 6 at the bottom of the 12, and I'll hit above my pin, like at my pin or higher. And I think I fired like more top of the 12 height
Gotcha.
Because it fired quick on me.
My initial thought was 40.
I think I'd guess he's probably somewhere in the 2.5.
Here we go.
3 range.
We'll find out right now.
Probably 3.
What did you think it was?
Probably 2.5 to 3.
42.5.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
So this was a tricky target. I mean, it really, you can't see the whole body. It's easy to like, when it's that narrow and you can't see it and everything looks small, you know, your brain's imagining this target should be this big, but because you can only see this much,
right,
sometimes your brain wants to associate that with a bigger number too. In your case, you wanted to shoot it for a lower number.
Yeah.
But
which is I tend to shoot low.
But I think it also has to do with the fact that as narrow as some of this was, you know, when you shoot this, and that's why I was saying when you shoot it in your round can affect how you judge this. And I shot this towards the end, so I shot a lot of targets that necessarily weren't this tight. Right. And so when I got to this target, this was the narrowest lane on the course. And so for me, it looked really narrow. It looked really tight. I knew that would probably make me overjudge, maybe, but I wasn't gonna let that affect it. And if I overjudged, I overjudged it. You know, just if I shot 10, big deal.
I took 3 practice shots before this, not at this target, but so I didn't have a frame of reference.
well, awesome.
Let's go look at a 10.
Let's
Finally.
go check it out. Well, of all the targets that we shot this year, this is probably the hardest one to judge.
For real.
So it's a good one for you to 10 too.
Yes. I need Dan McCarthy fist bump there.
Yeah, well, you're in a good shot.
So, yeah, I know my bubble was in the middle. Like I said, I changed my yardage to 43, which it was 42.5. So,
well, and you can see, you know, just looking at the pattern of everybody that shot this target.
Yeah,
you know, most of these guys are shooting lowers anyway, but everybody was, you know, overjudging. A lot of them were overjudging this target and shooting, you know, high. It just something about the set, and like I said, take this target, maybe move it over, and everybody smokes it. Right. It's just sometimes there's just lanes where you don't necessarily do anything wrong. It's just a tricky lane.
Yeah.
But I think if you walk out there with the mindset of this is a tricky lane, and so, oh man, it looks 45, so I'm going to shoot it for 3 because it looks tricky.
Right.
You're probably going to cause more point loss. That you're going to bleed more points than if you just judge it, shoot it.
Yeah.
And if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong.
I'll tell you my frame of reference for that. What made me switch was I thought about my yard, which is way wide open, more open than this, and I thought, man, that looks farther than 40. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to add 3.
Were you about to shoot it for 40?
My first set was 40.
I can't believe how different, you know, our mindset is. Where I'm looking at this target going, I think it's 44.
Yeah.
And I think a safe play is shoot it for 5. And then I was like, I think even maybe a smarter play, because I'm leading it, is to put, and as an aim and reference, you know, to say, so I say like, so I could see this core line in my scope, right?
Right.
And so I put 6, not thinking it was 6, but knowing that I'll hit over my pin. I could see this core line kind of where it stopped.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to put 6, you know, right in here, thinking it was me, hoping it was 5, and I'd hit right over my pin. But instead, I hit, you know, way up in here.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was just, I was like,
I'm gonna be honest. I was shooting for a 10.
That's great. Yeah. Well, honestly, I mean, really, in order to really bear down and shoot at 12s, to really shoot at them, you should be really confident that this is got a good chance of hitting the 12. If you don't think it's got a good chance of hitting it, there's no reason to be shooting at it. I mean, there's just a higher chance of shooting an 8.
Right.
Wait until you see a target that you're a little more confident on, then bear down on that one.
What I could see through my scope and my setup were this dark stuff here. I couldn't see this too well.
Yeah.
So my aiming reference was more in this area just because that's what I could see. And, you know, it is what it is, but thank you. A 10, finally. No more 8s. The 8 streak is over.
Now we got to start a 12 streak.
Now we got to start the 12 streak.
Get the hat trick.
With one tournament to go.
Hey, better late than never.
Well, hey, Dan, always appreciate the insight. That's awesome. I know people at home are appreciating that. They're learning a lot through this. I know I am. And, yeah, I appreciate your time.
It's awesome.
Well, good luck tomorrow.
Well.
Folks at home, thanks for joining us.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching our video. Because you made it to the end, I can tell you our special surprise. Dan McCarthy is going to allow us to hook up one of you with a full setup of a dozen of his Black Eagle PS Dan McCarthy Signature Series arrows. You pick the spine, you pick the diameter, points, nocks, bushings, whatever you want. Dan is going to let us hook you up with a dozen. How you enter for that is there is a link in this video description. Click on that. It will walk you through how you enter our contest. With that, we want to tell you there's no fee to enter this. We don't need any sensitive information. If you get contacted by someone asking you for credit card information or saying you have to pay an entry fee, that's not us. That's a scammer trying to get that information from you. Ignore it. It is not from us. Good luck on the contest.